Oh, this has not been a simple year, as all of you know. And composing words for Rosh Hashanah that speak to all that we've been through these past months has been challenging, I think, for every rabbi alive. So let me begin by saying that my heart goes out to those of you in California and in Oregon and in Washington, where the losses have been so great. And the aftermaths of the fires will be considerable for some time. And my heart goes out to all of you who've lost relatives and friends and colleagues in the past year from the pandemic or otherwise. For you too, tonight the air is thick with ash and sorrow. And to our brothers and sisters of color, whose historical traumas are finally breaking through the surface of the ground and finally being grasped by parts of the white world. Many of us are facing our culpability. Many of us are facing our guilt with humble awareness. And many of us are pledging tonight and for months in the past too, to do the work of repair. Because as our teacher, Abraham Joshua Heschel said, in a free society, some are guilty, but all of us are responsible. Indifference to evil is worse than evil itself. So we have fires and floods, massive hurricanes, illness, joblessness, and injustice. I feel quite certain that no one listening to these words has gone unscathed. Each of us has been chastened and changed by the events of the past year, some of us profoundly and markedly, and some of us subtly. So, because we're raw and because we're listening, let me offer a story. This is a Buddhist tale that could just as easily be a Hasidic tale. Once, a Zen master and a great student were studying together late into the night. And they were discussing all manner of fabulous concepts, penetrating into the great mysteries, the Lotus Sutra and the most difficult koans and all kinds of metaphysical issues and problems. Finally, it was time for the student to leave. He gets up and the master opens the door. The student looks out into the pitch black night. He turns to his teacher and goes, "Oh my God, it's so dark. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my way." Oh, the teacher says, "Of course," and hands the student a lit candle. And then just before the student walks out into the night, the teacher goes and blows the candle out. How many of us have felt that God has done just that, blown out the candle and sent us out into the great void to find our way. And alas, all of our concepts and our high-minded ideas are of little use at all. All of a sudden, the rules of the game have changed, and we find ourselves casting about in utterly new territory without a map or a flashlight or even a candle. One thing is clear. We're in a time of great turning. For some time, the term paradigm shift has been bandied about, but now enough talk. It's happening. It's for real. The Shekhinah, the Divine Mother, has her foot on the gas. Or to use another metaphor, the birth contractions are coming hard and fast now. The labor pains, the Chavlei Leda, as the ancients used to call them, are upon us now, as our world struggles mightily to birth a new way of life. And as many of you know, parents or not, birth can be a bloody and messy affair, and not without risk. Tonight, there were so many things I had prepared to say, but in the end, none held a candle, to the Torah of the moment, to what's appearing right here, right now, right under our noses, and for some of us, right in our noses. The air, the smoke, the flames, unbearable. The violence suffered on the streets of this country, also unbearable. How many Black and brown lives have been snuffed out, their last cry, I can't breathe. And those suffering from COVID too, suffer from shortness of breath, trouble taking a breath, the virus shutting down our airways. In Judaism, breath is sacred. It's our connection to life and to the giver of life, the holy power who desires life, hachofetz chaim. In the creation story, the Torah tells us, Vayipach ba'apav nishmat chayim. God breathed the breath of life into Adam's nose, and he and Chava, Eve, sprang to life. Breath in Hebrew is neshima, just a vowel away from neshama, the soul that God breathed into us, rides on the breath. And the breath that God breathed into us, continuously breathing us, is good and pure. So what does it mean that we can't breathe? What is this crisis of breathlessness? This Rosh Hashanah and all through the holidays here at Matifta, we are going to be pausing often, simply to breathe, simply to slow down, to restore our awareness of this miraculous gift that connects us to the life of the planet and to one another and to the river of spirit that flows through us. But we have this crisis of breathlessness that pushed its way into my words tonight, because when I looked at it, it mattered more than anything else I was thinking about. It was, in a sense, the only show in town. The word crisis comes from Greek krisus. It's a turning point in an illness, when a fever breaks or an illness takes a turn, for better or for worse. And here we are at such a crisis, such a turning point. But listen to this. In Hebrew, crisis is mashber. It comes from the root word to shatter, to rupture. And isn't this a time of shattering? The shattering of our illusions, of our innocence, the shattering of our institutions, of our norms. But I also discovered in my search a much older, more primitive, chthonic meaning for the word crisis, mashber. Mashber is a modern Hebrew word, but it also means, curiously, a birthing stool. Now, what is a birthing stool? In ancient times, a woman would sit on the mashber at the most critical time of her delivery, her transition, the breaking point of the birth. She was so close to life and also so close to death. It was at that moment, that most vulnerable point, that physiologically something had to give, to open, to break. And psychologically too, it's often the moment that a woman's old self has to break apart, to utterly give way, to allow for new life. And that was certainly true in my own labor 33 years ago. A kind of dying to my old self happened to allow this new being to be born. Well, the ancient teaching, I think, gets better. Here comes the Zohar, this fantastic mystical text from the 1200s. It teaches that there is an evil side called the Sitra Achra. There's a force of evil in the world that's always waiting to initiate trouble in our world, to sow confusion, to sow self-doubt and misinformation, falsehoods, hopelessness. Does that sound familiar? But there is one power, the Zohar teaches, there is one power on earth that can blow back the force of evil. It is a birthing woman upon her birthing stool. It is women deep in the throes of labor. They can dispel the evil force with their cries, their groans, their prayers. So why am I telling you this strange medieval riddle? What is the sacred text telling us now in this year, 2020? First, that evil exists. It's always waiting for an entry. That evil is real and devious and shows up in many guises, and it's often right under our noses. And the Zohar is also telling us that it is the cries of those on their birthing stools, those who are breaking apart to deliver new life, who have the power to blow back the evil with their earnest cries and groans and prayers. So bear with me, this may be a stretch, but I think what a description of where we sit, all of us, men and women, at this moment in time, at this crossroads of this sacred new moon. In a way, we are all sitting on our birthing stools, aren't we? We're all at a mashber, at a crisis point, a breaking point, and we must cry out. If we are to deter the darkness that would just love to unleash itself further into our world, isn't that what is required of us at this time? Not to go gentle into that good night, but to rage and rage against the dying of the light, against the dying of the earth, against the dying of our dreams. The question is, can we really cancel out the life-defying powers of all the self-interest and the nefarious greed in our world? Can we channel our voices and our mindful breath to transform the darkness that grows beyond and within us? Can we wail against the encroachment of our cynicism, our faithlessness, and our existential terror? I don't know about you, but I have only to think of the animals and the trees in those forested hills in Oregon and California for my wails to begin. I wonder, what is it for you? Because each of us must find that place of heartbreak that tears us open, that elicits our cries. Each of us must find that place of our heartbreak that dispels the paralysis, the helplessness, the disbelief, the faithlessness in a power greater than ourselves. Because we are not alone in this dark void. We can and must reach out for one another in the night. And if we can suspend our disbelief, I know that we can gain access to an unseen world of divine assistance. These are our superpowers, my friends. The power of grace, the help of our ancestors, the help of the divine that earnestly wants life, that wants to help us if we can but allow it, if we can just cry out and open our doors for it. And of course, prayer is not enough. Crying is not enough. It is only one wing of the bird of change, as important as the other, which is taking action. And again, for each of us, taking action is going to look different. For each of us, it is ours to discover what our action will be. During these days of prayer and stillness here at Metifta, we have the incredible sacred luxury to get quiet and ask ourselves, what is mine to do in the new year? How can I up-level my actions? How can I upgrade my relationships, my attitude, my belonging to this world? How can I love life better? Not just bewail the darkness, but live my values stronger. Let me leave you with one final story from 2013. My God, another era altogether. When I had the honor of being at the White House with David, my beloved. And there I had the privilege of a private tete-a-tete, very brief, very, very brief, with President Obama. I can't even tell you what it was that I asked for. It was something to do with the Middle East and something to do with peace. But he looked at me right in the eyes, very thoughtful, and he said, Rabbi, I would love to do just that. But I can only do it if I hear from the people first that it's what they want. Then I can listen and act. I don't mean to liken Barack Obama to God, although it's pretty easy these days, I must say. It's just that what he said that night struck me because it is a central principle of Kabbalah. It's a central principle of Kabbalah to bring forth divine assistance from above, itaruta de la Ela. There must first be arousal from below, itaruta de la Tata. The divine powers don't move in a vacuum. We are connected in a great wheel. We are in relationship with the divine. And divine intervention depends upon us, all of us, and our cries and the actions that spring from our human hearts. For things to change, we, the people, must unite in voice and in action and send off ripples into the higher dimensions. For things to change, we, the people, must join together to shake the tree, to seed the clouds, to yell in concert, to be sure and be very sure that the things we are praying for are life-giving and love-affirming, not only for ourselves, but for everybody. Then the heavens can respond. So here's my invitation on the new year at the cusp of 52, 57, whatever it is, 81. Here's my invitation. Join me on the birthing stool this new year. Join me in this moment of crisis. And though we may not hear one another roar over Zoom, let's nevertheless join our breath, join our voices, join our longing, join our desire and our cries for new life this Rosh Hashanah. And let's each commit to take some action that is authentic to us so that the bird of change can fly free, so that we can find our way through this dark night and together birth a new world of dignity, of peace and life for this earth which we love, and for all of her inhabitants. I wish you a blessed new year. Shana Tova. May we do this together. Amen.